Okay, so, God, where do I even begin? Over the past few days, I've been doing a bunch of research into how Tarkov's API works and how it sort of interfaces with the client and sort of what data they give back, how to request it, and all sorts of stuff. So, what my goal was to create a bot to interface with their API directly rather than creating macros, because obviously macros are slowed down by the UI. You can only go as fast as you can click, and since Tarkov's API or UI is shit, there's a lot of loading, there's a lot of like transitions and animations. The the sort of macros I made weren't very good. They were pretty terrible, at least as far as macros go. So I obviously wanted to create something better, and I have. Yeah, so that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be walking through how I did this, sort of how to interact with their API, and how to build your own trading bot. So first I'm going to start with, I'm trying to be careful of what I show here, because I don't want to show, oh, well, there it is, fuck, I'm going to have to change this. Whatever, I've already shown it, I'm going to show it. So you get a PHP session ID, which if we open up Fiddler and capture traffic, if we wait for Tarkov to ping its keep alive request, and the keep alive request is basically telling the servers that you're still logged in, so to not delete your session key, which makes sense. There's a keep alive. So keep alive contains your session ID as well as all other requests. So I defined that as cookie. Obviously, I can make this an environment variable or like put it in when you run the code, whatever. I hard coded it. I don't give a shit. So the cookie is included in all requests. So if you're familiar with what request options look like, this is pretty much it. We specify encoding as null. I read this somewhere in a GitHub issue. I put it in. Whatever. It works. We specify gzip as true, which forces gzip and deflate as the content type headers. Obviously, I put my cookie in here. User agent, we're faking Unity. Our host is escape from Tarkov. Version, content type. So then, additionally, I defined some customs. Calling these customs, these variable names are really terrible. Please do not take this as a quality code. This is shit code. Lots of global variables that I shouldn't be doing. So we define skier, the skier's ID, peacekeeper, peacekeeper's ID, Makarovs, they're actually PMs, but I call them Makarovs, Prapor's ID, MR133s or pump shotguns, and AVSs, as well as rubles and the hideout. So hideout is obviously your inventory. I defined this make request function that has a lot of error checking and catching. We return a promise that eventually is resolved where we wrap it in a try catch just in case Payco fails. Payco is a zlib port to JS. I'm writing this in Node if you can't tell. So Payco will inflate gzipped items or gzipped pieces of data. What was interesting is I didn't know it was gzip, because these idiot developers don't include their content encoding in the request or the response. Why? I don't know. I don't know if you have to set that custom in PHP, but their server's PHP, but why they don't specify it is beyond me. So this .on our request here, which is a module I'm using to make my request, we're specifying the content encoding as deflate so that it will actually understand that that's what it is when Payco tries to convert it to a string. And then Payco is going to resolve that. Obviously, we have some error catching here. 4 fails in a row. Something's very wrong. Request failed and try again, because I noticed their API will just like not respond correctly sometimes. So I just make another request and obviously return that because promise chaining. So that's what our make request looks like. And as a little info of like what kind of data we're gathering, it's this. Look at all this. So many global IDs, and these are really unhelpful. We have like TPL ID. I don't know what TPL stands for yet. I just use it. Then we have a parent ID, an ID, and a slot ID, right? Like that tells me nothing about the item. What's really fun is you have to go take this item ID and look it up in your locale, which is like the entire English translation of the game. This is really inefficient, BSG. If you're watching this, this is horribly inefficient. Please, for the love of God, hard code this in your game. You shouldn't have to respond with this so that your game like fucking parses out one-to-one IDs to this stuff. Like, specify a locale on your headers, guys. Come on. It's easy. Bad server devs. Then profile. It's my profile. Then items. All the items in the game. And this has a lot of like Russian text in it, if I'm correct. I forget which one does. And then obviously the most important one is traders. Again, hilarious because they are in Russian. Once we find the Russian text here, their location. Yeah, this is all Russian. So I don't know who this guy is. So I have to go ping locale, find it, and then blah, blah, blah. So from there, we go and create our... Where is it? So we request assortments from the trader at trader ID. Assortments, I've yet to figure out why they're there. Not really sure. I don't use it to make my requests. I just get their stock is what I'm calling it. So assortments versus get user assortment price. So this gives me the items, and then I build a constructed traders object, which if we go look in our tree view here, name prepor, there's his name, here's his stock with all his items, assortments, that's like an array of all this garbage that I don't even use. I should stop doing that, I guess. Loyal level items, barter schemes, etc., as well as data on who he is. So we have his ID, Russian name, etc. I found these out by actually making requests and observing them in Fiddler, so that I can like see whose ID pertains to what, etc. There's no programmatic decision making there. So yeah, there's a lot of like building schemas or building schemes because these schemes are an array of items. So if we look at what a request would be, so this is like selling a final or selling something to prepor or maybe fence. I think it's fence. No, it's gear. Sorry. These items are what we're selling, and this is a scheme right here, where we have an ID, account, and a scheme ID. But sometimes they're different, like sometimes they look like this with no scheme ID, or the scheme ID specified up there. There's very little consistency in their API, not to bash them again, but it was confusing as hell. And then here is a really, really terrible callback hell fucking function chaining monster. So what we do is we buy an item, buy our Makarov, we're going to buy 3 of them from prepor, and on response we're going to strip them. We're basically taking the mags out and returning the guns without the mags and the mags themselves. And then we build our scheme of the stripped magazines with returning the Makarov scheme, which then we use buy item with scheme, specifying a pump, passing in our scheme, saying that we want to buy it from skier. Then we get our response from the pumps, and we strip the pumps. This is AS for asynchronous. I don't even think it is. I think it's synchronous now. I changed all this. No, it's async. It's good then. So then we return base pump and pump parts. We build a scheme with the base pump. Buy item with scheme. We're buying an AVS with the base pump from Peacekeeper. Then we get our AVS back, and we fill it with all of the parts, including like our pump parts and our magazine. Then once it's filled, we sell it, the whole thing, all of it, to Skier. And from there, we have our money. We're going to go find it in our inventory. We're going to move it, and then we're going to call this process again and start the loop over. So to show you what that looks like, just going to run it here. So we can see buy item with scheme, fill item. Now I have 7 stacks. My profit so far is 16,000 rubles. So it's not incredible. I mean, okay, it's incredible. But it's damn fast. It's way faster than a macro. I'm completing these about, God, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 seconds, maybe 7. And it's 16,000 rubles every 6 seconds. That's pretty good. And the total there is the items, or the stacks of rubles that are in my inventory, not in items cases. So I can put them in cases and leave them. This does require me to have a huge amount of empty space in my inventory to actually move the items around, because I have to programmatically figure out which slots are free and which slots aren't, which is annoying. There's a lot of speed improvements I can be making here, especially on the buy items with schemes, because I'm essentially doing a math.random to find its place to put it in there, because I got lazy, because they were firing those requests asynchronously. So it became a bitch because they would collide with each other. So I just do math.random, and it's up to the RNG gods if I do it quick enough. But yeah, I'm trying to see if it'll fail here. Surprisingly, it hasn't failed yet. Normally it fails at least once by now. But obviously I have failure catching and retrying, so. Yeah, that was the tour of this sort of app I've built. I don't know if this will ever see public eyes. It's currently mine right now. It's hard to use and definitely not user-friendly. But yeah, if you want to see this or want to get your hands on it, message me or something. Maybe we can work something out. But yeah, don't expect this to see the light of day. Anyways, thanks for watching. Peace.